So yeah,
Ole, 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 ole.
ole, ole, go. Yes, no.
Woo!
Are soccer? Is football going on right now? Am I missing something, or is there matches?
Football?
Yeah,
No.
like real
I
football. Sorry, not
yeah.
American football, like European style
I
football.
I have no idea. I'm so checked out with sports ball right now.
I'm, dude.
The sports ball I'm excited to get into is the beginning of softball season because this is Lex's first year playing softball.
Oh, dude,
So
that's
that's
nice.
about as much as I
That's where the
know
sport.
what is
Yeah,
going
my
on.
my sports are primarily taekwondo and karate at this point for Omar.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what he's doing as well. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Season school. I mean, we're finally back. We're also kind of going into another holiday. There's a holiday coming up on Monday, so I don't know about you,
Mm-hmm.
but at least, oh, Omar's staying here today, tomorrow, and Monday, so he has 2 days off. It's a 4-day weekend for him, but obviously only a 3-day
Mm-hmm.
weekend for me. And then
Yeah.
we're expecting a lot of rain, so yay! The rain
Woo!
came just in time for the holiday weekend.
It's great. Hey everybody, welcome to a tech podcast.
Always, always.
This is going to be the theme for today. We were both kind of chatting like, "Hey, what do you want to talk about today?" And then we just kept getting sidetracked. I feel like this is going to be a show of tangents.
Yes,
I suggested a title that really was just
I wanted to
saying
put
this
that in
was
the
a whole
title. No, no,
show
no.
about tangents. And
I put that in there,
instead,
and
TK did the responsible thing and put actual like
titles.
keyword and searchable things in the title so that
Well, no, like
people
how
might
to
find
rebuild a
this
NAS, or
podcast.
those specific
Sure.
words. I'm sure we'll get a
Yeah.
lot of our Qnap fans and a lot of our fans that love Porsche design and all things, rebuilding PCs
I
and all
can't
that.
promise them we're going to do a good job talking about any of that
I,
stuff.
this is going to be. I'll say this. This is kind of like a precursor to the chaos that's going to start next week and then carry over to the week after. We are at
Yeah.
literally within a week or so, a little over a week away from MWC. It is the Mobile
Yep.
World show that is the show of Mobile World Congress, and it's focused on mobile. That's where all the manufacturers are going to. I mean, we already know Honor's going to have something going on. We already know Xiaomi's
Mm-hmm.
having something going on. We don't obviously. There's no word about some of the other companies. I haven't heard, but
Yeah.
we know that at least I know Oppo's going to be there. OnePlus will probably be there as well. They've been there the last couple of years. And we of course have some of the other manufacturers. I mean, I'm pretty sure Qualcomm and MediaTek are going to be there. I'm looking forward to seeing
Yep.
those two teams. And
And it's just kind of interesting because, like, in the products that we might be talking about or in the next couple weeks, don't you feel that some of the way that we've done this year, because a few of these products are actually already out in the wild.
it is a
We agree
very
to embargoes based
yeah
on regions, and
yes
I like, for example, OnePlus. We're
uh-huh,
very good. We have very good relationships with OnePlus PR.
exactly.
I very much appreciate that they like working with content creators like us,
I
and
appreciate it
that
as well.
means that we're willing to listen to their regional embargoes and things like that. But it was
Mhm.
also like, this phone already exists in
Well,
some
and there's quite a
regions.
bit of content even in English on the products that are
Yeah.
and okay, so to bring kind of the conversation a little bit more up to things, we've dealt with these things in the past. It hasn't been this large of a gap where a
Well,
device has been there for months, right?
yeah, the initial launches like
Yeah,
at
like
the end of
the
2023,
it was in early
November of
December. Yeah, no, no, it was
2023.
in early December. I think that's where the OnePlus 12 came out in China, and then our embargoes were closer to the latter part of January and February for the 12
Mm-hmm.
and 12R. So yeah, no, I mean it's not like a massive gap, but some of the devices have been released. Yeah, I mean if you check into the
Yeah.
China market, a lot of the announcements at MWC are already kind of done.
And
Um,
like maybe you go to one of those fun importing or reseller sites and
yeah,
you can already see what some of this
some
info
of the
looks
pricing is.
like.
Well, so for me, it's more about, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about the news, but the reason why I'm excited about MWC is you get to see the manufacturers from across the world. I'm
Yeah.
talking like, Techno. Techno is a brand that I haven't worked with before, but I'm very interested in seeing the advancements. Last year, I saw their foldable at the MediaTek booth. I didn't see it
Mm-hmm.
because they launched it, but the MediaTek had a demo over there. And it was actually a pretty decent foldable. And late last year, they released their first clamshell foldable. in Singapore, literally a month before I went to Singapore for Oppo's foldable, clamshell foldable. So it was kind of
Mhm.
they're stepping it up. I mean, they're basically I think uh, they're related to Infinix, but I can't figure out if they're the premium version of Infinix or are they just cousins. So I don't.
Yeah.
If somebody maybe can help me understand, hey Barry, I hope you guys are doing well. So yeah, that's the part I'm excited about. That's the part I got excited about years ago when Samsung used to have Unpacked at MWC. Like I remember going
Yeah.
to an Unpacked at MWC, and I think Fisher was there. I think Jaime was there. I want to say you were there, but I don't think we ran into each other, or I don't know if we saw each other that one night. It was the one where they did the Gear VR headset.
Maybe
It was
that might
also
have
where the
been
LG
just
G5 as
before.
well, or it was before. Oh no, no, if Fisher was there, I guess that was just before you came on.
Yeah, that might have
Okay,
been
okay, I was still with
might have
XDA
been
at the time.
shortly after
Briefly
some of the
after,
major fallout between
yeah,
Samsung PR and Pocket Now,
yes,
which
because Samsung, because that's true.
precipitated
Because Pocket
Fisher
Now was at the
leaving
event. Yeah, yeah,
Pocket
yeah.
Now. Let me just air all the dirty laundry.
Whoa,
So anyway,
right there.
I know, right? Like clotheslines and everything. It's gonna rain.
Exactly. No, no, no.
Um, but yeah, so the I feel MWC is safer
Hmm.
than a lot of the other trade shows that we've been talking about. I still feel like CES is starting to find its footing, but it's still in a very precious position.
Yeah.
MWC is mobile, even with earlier international launches. There's like an idea of that trade show, why you have all these journalists in one space. But I
Exactly.
still feel that these outlets and these organizations that run these events, they've got to be really careful. You've got to be really careful about like what is it that you bring to the table or what value do you provide having this massive infrastructure and all of these events happening in Barcelona. Being able to define what that value is getting fuzzier and fuzzier. So I'm still very anxious. I'm still really excited to see what's going to go down at MWC. I want to see how the show is defined
Hmm.
by the players who do show up.
Yeah.
I know like Samsung's going to have a presence, but they're not launching anything huge at
No,
MWC.
I don't,
So
yeah,
this
I
is a
think,
big opportunity for another company to come in and say like, "Hey, you already know about this brand's phone. This phone has already been out in China for a while. Someone could walk away with the exciting new at MWC. There's actually a really huge opportunity for
mhm,
another player to come in and say, like, and now it's our turn.
yeah.
And everybody's here. So we've got coverage on something that's actually new,
Mhm.
not just a phone released in a new region that has been out for a couple months in another region. I think this is a huge opportunity for a Lenovo Moto. This
Oh,
could
yeah.
be a
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
opportunity for a Sony. Like there
Mhm.
are all these companies that still haven't really shown off what's going on. That's what I'm really looking forward to see. Does someone really make use of this as an opportunity? Does
Yeah.
someone put a little bit of push behind it because now you've got a captive audience of techies kind of hungry for something new?
Yeah. No, and I think that's the point of the show. It's supposed to bring new tech. It's supposed to expose us to ideas, concepts. I mean, last year OnePlus went up to everybody and brought in the OnePlus
No.
11 water cooled edition that was
Yeah.
purely a concept
Well,
that never
I,
became a thing.
I like
Yeah.
that vibe, and I think CES does this really well too. It can be a place to show off some radical concepts and things like that, but I don't want us to get so far removed from the consumer facing conversation. I feel like there's just a bit of a fog
Hmm.
kicking off 2024 where some of the biggest announcements, some of the big excitement doesn't seem like it's going to sustain. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm disappointed how predictable and easy it was to call all of the people that were already going to be returning their Apple mixed reality headsets.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed
Yeah.
how easy it was to predict
Uh-huh.
people would need to find fault with OnePlus phones and gin up a controversy that didn't really exist, like
No,
looking
yeah.
at camera sensors. I just had someone reach out to me on Mastodon,
Hmm.
just asking like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Nick on Mastodon. I don't know if he even catches our other streams, but asked me like, "What do you think about this controversy that's brewing with Samsung displays?" And you're like, it's so frustrating that like once the peak day of traffic for something new releasing has already spiked, and Google Trends and Google Analytics and Google algorithms are now burying the sustained conversation. The only thing we have left is there drama? Is there a
It's the drama.
controversy?
Yeah,
Is there
exactly.
is there a fail? Can we point to a fail? And you're like, we're so hyped on this insane ratcheted novelty that like we never just get to live with these things anymore. And that's where the really interesting conversations happen. Like this big update that's coming for the S24 Ultra is getting buried under stories about, well, when I turn the screen all the way down to its lowest brightness and I take a picture of it with the camera and I boost the brightness of the photo of the camera, the screen looks kind of grainy if it's all one uniform color.
Because
I
that's how we
don't
use
like
our phone.
Samsung. Don't make me defend Samsung. That is the dumbest
Well, no, no.
controversy
So
to come up with.
in a direct manner, I mean, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. It is a very, we're in the land of now, this is where all the skeletons come out kind of a thing. Like, you know, where the honeymoon phase is over.
But we
and
shouldn't
then-
be.
No,
Like
no, no, we
the
shouldn't.
honeymoon phase? There are people who are just getting their
Oh, no, 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 I
orders
know.
like
I'm-
early
I'm-
from early purchasing.
honeymoon phase as tracked and maintained.
I
by
don't know
Google
about
Analytics.
when you got married, but I still feel like you marry someone
Yeah.
and you're kind of allowed to say that you're in a honeymoon phase for like roughly the first year of your marriage. Like the honeymoon phase, according to Google Analytics, is like 63 hours. And then the topic is dead.
Well, so
Galaxy S24, it's been out for over 2 days. Dead.
it's because people stopped looking.
I don't believe that anymore. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Like in years past, when I was running analytics at Pocket Now, I feel we could see the sort of follow through on an audience. I believe now algorithms decide for viewers. This topic is dead, and now you're just
before it even starts. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because the algorithm shoots a very, very, very small number of followers that have maybe checked the bell and all of that stuff in your subset. And if for some reason that specific portion of your, let's say 180, 200, 300,000 subscribers don't like the topic that you were generating in this video, but maybe others would have,
yeah.
the algorithm assumes the rest of your 180 to 200, 300, whatever don't like the video.
Never need to see.
And
yeah.
so it never gets pushed, or if it does get pushed, it's on such a slow play, they won't even see it for like a week later or something like that. So the concern that I have is like, as Jermaine and I were talking as well before, like he doesn't even get notifications of my videos.
Yeah.
Like he's subscribed.
Do you know when I see when you put out videos? Because I am your friend.
Mm-hmm.
We regularly break bread together.
Absolutely.
We've been known to cohabitate in like similar locations at the same time.
Oh, dude, that chicken sandwich this week. Well, before I forget, that chicken sandwich, it's freaking epic.
So
It
good.
is epic. Vanya loved it. I loved it. I want to go get more of it.
Marie was like, "Yeah, I'll try it. I'll try a slice." Oh my god!
That's it.
And I told you it was gonna be exactly like the Mediterranean place that we have over here that does those like garlic sauces.
Yeah.
Where if we both need to eat them because then it's okay.
It's okay.
Like,
Yeah. Otherwise, there's like
I can't smell anything else. So if I go to kiss my wife and she's had the garlic sauce and I've had the garlic sauce, then we're both fine. We're immune to the garlic sauce. But yeah, she had the zing. You know, she took a bite and she was kind of chewing. She's like, oh.
yeah. It was such a good find.
It was like,
because I came over because by the time I got home, Vanya saw it and she's like, "Wait, it doesn't." Like,
you had hooked me up before. I did not understand that Lebanese flatbreads and pizzas were such a distinct culinary diversion from Italian style.
It looks
flatbreads
similar
and pizzas.
It's nothing close.
No, I mean, obviously in the region of the world there are some similarities, but this is also one of those things that like I absolutely adore. That I share this with more Mediterranean and Middle Eastern cuisine is like so much of Mexican food, like real from Mexico food, is influenced from that area of the world. The way that we do tacos is in the trompo comes directly from like Lebanese influences. It's amazing. So it's incredible. Like my
that as a shawarma place every time I pass it, I'm like, and they're like, nope, it's not a shawarma place. but it looks like it.
But but it's got a giant column of meat. I'm there. But my grandfather's family also has huge roots from Italy. So like so many of the little culinary things that we take for granted as being like Michoacan and like central Mexico and stuff like that. You're like, and then I find really, really good like Persian or Mediterranean or Middle Eastern cuisine. You're like, oh, this is like a cousin of the food that I really, really like.
It's fun because it's relatable, but the surprise is when the flavor hits you. See, here's the thing. I've been to that place so many times. I go there specifically for the thyme and for the cheese. I typically never look at their sandwiches. But your selection made me try something
that
from
garlic
their menu
chicken
that I didn't even know I should have. Now I crave more. So yes,
it's so good. And I think it got better on day 2.
It did.
When all that sauce kind of like marinated and it was so good. We got the tech preacher. Sorry, I just want to do a couple shout outs. We got the tech preacher jumping in to say, what up, peeps?
Hey.
I would like to hear your response to this as someone who has spent some time with the S24s and that I am an insufferable Samsung hater.
Absolutely.
Ghost Starscream has a comment up here. To be fair, I feel like Samsung shoot themselves in the foot by releasing the S24s just right before Apple releasing their mixed reality headset. Because Apple has a mixed reality headset that does virtual reality and some augmented reality, but through a mixed reality pass-through. There aren't any brand names for things like that I can think of. It's just, we call that mixed reality. I would like your thoughts on this because I'm going to also preface what Ghost Starscream is saying here. I think Samsung was between a rock and a hard place because Xiaomi and Vivo and Oppo were so early in releasing their phones. I don't think Samsung could have waited for their more traditional S24 launch, but that does put them in a media blackout where all of the tech journalists are so impressed with Apple for a week before they go and return all of their mixed reality headsets. That's apparently the big trend on Threads right now. So do you think Samsung could have done anything to get ahead of this sort of like rock and hard place situation?
It's a tough place to be in. I mean, it's a week after CES. So they chose, and CES was already a week later than it usually is because of the whole the year starting and all of that. I'm with you. Qualcomm moving up their launch event to October shifted us tremendously. But Xiaomi, Vivo, Oppo, OnePlus didn't wait a second. 2023 saw more 2024 flagships than we've ever seen in the past. This is crazy. We used to see one, like maybe two, and like it'd probably be a Chinese only. But the reality is, Samsung couldn't have done anything. If they waited to February, yes, maybe they could have circumvented the Vision Pro. But then the reality at the end of the day, then the phones would come out right after or right around MWC, which pretty much everybody's coverage is going to start shifting. So it's a tough, you don't want to be too close to MWC. You don't want to be too close to CES. And the Vision Pro situation, I mean, we knew it was coming. And the reality is, I mean, Apple is just a media blackout regardless. I mean, Apple could drop what was it? They made the announcement of the Vision Pro during the day of CES, was it? They said that basically devices, they're going to they do that. They troll.
I really feel like Apple waited until there were some announcements from like XReal. Like XReal. I think Rokid, a company had announced that they were doing a partnership with Rokid. There's another Rokid station like Mini Brain, a company, and they're working directly with Rokid to put this up on Kickstarter.
I know XReal was at CES, and I know I talked to a few companies that they were.
And then also we started getting a few of those TCL hands-on videos and stuff, and I feel like the second I saw anything like that in my feed, that's when Apple was like, by the way, our mixed reality headset, blah, blah, blah,
will be available and pre-orders.
I feel Samsung is already in a really difficult spot. They're treading water with phones that used to be the standards bearers, that used to be the sort of crown jewel devices. S24, S24 Plus, S24 Ultra are very iterative devices. I think they are improved. I think you can point to a lot of things that are better year over year over year, especially if you're coming from like an S21. But if they wait too long, then Xiaomi 14s in China, Vivo X100 Pro now finally being available in the EU
Yeah, no,
again.
but that's what I'm
Like
saying. Yeah,
you're screwed if you depend on that first week of sales so that you can put out all the positive press. Oh, we broke records with the S24 Ultra pre-orders, because that phone isn't a phone that sustains sales throughout the year. It spikes and then it drops off.
and I think
And
more.
you don't want to wait,
Mhm.
because in other regions people will dedicate their money to stuff that's new and stuff that looks exciting. This is a bad time for Samsung to trust that their audience is going to stick around for them.
Especially in the international market. I think that's more so in the international market than the US. In the US, Samsung has, I mean, the direct competitors obviously are, Pixel, OnePlus, and Moto for the most part. Um, and when you talk about international, you're right. Yeah, Xiaomi's releasing the 14 series, right? That is MWC's
Mm-hmm.
thing. We know Honor's going to be launching. I know officially this is not available internationally yet. The Porsche design V2, but I think if I'm not mistaken, I think that's probably going to be part of the conversation where that's going to be the special edition ones. But the biggest thing that I think they don't want to be put head to head is launching a phone at that time is hard. The coverage is so scattered. There's so much information coming out. You'll definitely,
Yeah.
even if you make an impact, you're not going to make an Apple impact. You're going to make a Samsung as competing with other brands, which that's why they separated from MWC. That's why they no longer are connected
They've always
to.
tried to stand apart, but they're
Yeah.
still getting buried uh, in the wider consumer coverage. I feel like, especially for the folks that are in our chat right now, and we've just had a few other folks show up: Septian,
Oh yeah.
Golan, Simon Says Hypno, just some fun. Steve Pogue in there. Everybody say hey, and we see you in the chat. But this audience, people who will actually pay attention to sort of launch strategies. I had the benefit of joining our buddy Rich,
Mhm.
Rich DeMuro. He still does an old school radio show that he
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
repurposes as a podcast. And I love like old school media. Like I have to call into his show. It's so cool. Like I miss old school media like that. But we've kind of struck out this like unofficial anniversary where a new OnePlus comes out, so Juan comes on the radio show to talk about this new OnePlus one. We didn't realize like we've been doing this for a couple years now. Rich, we should just go grab lunch sometime and like
Yeah.
catch
Yeah.
up in between OnePlus launches.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
but like if it's not for something like that, then the general consumer conversation is
Hmm.
overwhelmingly Apple centric here in the
Hmm.
United States. And so that's where I feel like Samsung is gonna find so much so much friction trying to get their message out there at a time where their products are iterative. They're not releasing new exciting things. The company is in a very defensive position. I think they're trying to improve profitability by
Hmm.
making less expensive design changes every year,
Hmm.
and that's difficult to talk about. Like I got to play with your S24 Ultra, just kind of hold it in my hands and poke around with an S Pen and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And it's a nice phone. It is going to be the best work productivity truck phone of the year. It's what the Galaxy Note is always that device. I don't know how to tell that story year over year over year. It's kind of like one model of Toyota Camry, and
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, in this from like 1993 to 1998, it was the same body style with minor trim differences. You don't review the Toyota Camry from scratch every
No,
year. You
you
wait
just
for
yeah.
the major body changes or the major trim changes or something like that. And Samsung hasn't given us a major trim change since the S20.
Well, because okay, so I think the approach that Samsung's going through right now is somewhat working in a different direction because I think for the longest time we used to have S series and Note series. S series are more
Mm-hmm.
curvy; they are not as boxy. Then we shifted over, and then the Note became the S, and or really became the Note. And now you're right. We're in a what we typically would see it as an iterative update. The updates, I think I'll say the biggest difference for me from last year to this year was the flat display. That took some adjustment for me. I personally like curved edges. I like the smoothness of the edge when I'm actually putting my phone. I don't like hitting a sharp edge as I'm going onto the phone. I
Sure.
typically I'm more used to starting somewhat lower than the display. It's just a muscle memory. Most of my phones, even with the Find X7 Ultra, um, other than and obviously the software features that we talked about as far as the AI and stuff like that, some of that's coming down to the S23 series. It's not necessarily very specific to S24. It's a hard sell to say S23 should upgrade. It's also a little bit harder to say S22 should upgrade to the S24. You're right. Maybe S21, maybe S10 should be this, or S20 or even S10 should be able to
Well,
consider it.
I'm gonna say if you're on an S22, normally I'd agree with you, but
Yeah.
if you can get away from that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, I think you will be very pleasantly
So,
surprised by the battery life improvements.
well,
To me,
so
that is now enough of a mission.
yeah.
Look at trading your deals, look at selling your phone, make the effort. And I'm saying
Mhm.
that across the board. If you have an Axon running
Anything running
Snapdragon 8 Gen 1,
the
if
Gen
you
1,
have an
yeah.
X80 Pro, great phone for its time. It's also running a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. If you have the Moto Edge Plus 2022 8 Gen 1, if you have the OnePlus 10 Pro, try to look at your options to flip your phone sooner than you might have needed to otherwise. And I think you will be very pleasantly surprised by the performance uptick in the battery life.
Yeah.
But that is unique to the silicon industry.
Not necessarily.
I,
Yeah.
I,
No, I mean,
I feel there are people out there with like Note and S10s that are maybe looking at like the small changes from S20 to S24 going, I guess I could wait another year. My uncle was on an S9 until the end of last year where he finally decided like, nah, it's time I got a new phone from my Galaxy S9 and he opted for a Sony. So like our
very
ability
good.
to my mom's on a OnePlus 6T. She's still like we still haven't like convinced her, like nudged her over to get like a new phone. I think we might see if she'll dig on like the OnePlus 12R.
I think the 12R is a very compelling recommendation
But
for
but
anybody. Yeah, in
yeah,
trying to look for.
we've got videos and reviews on the OnePlus 12R. That wasn't like me saying we should like talk
No,
about
no,
the
I'm with you.
12R.
I'm with
We've got other
you.
stuff that we want
I
to
think
talk about, but
to kind of wrap it up, though, I feel like Samsung really didn't have any option to go anywhere else. They either would have
no,
had to wait all the way till March to be able to do something just to kind of jump over everything else. But
way
by
too
then,
late.
well, no, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But by then, you're like way too late to the conversation. I think January was the right move. I think the best move that they could have done, and um, yeah, it's a weird year. This is the adjustment year for all of us because we're all shifting earlier. Like the Find
Hmm.
X7 Ultra last year was launched after MWC by like 2-3 weeks. Now it's already launched, and it was basically I think launched right around CES even. So they moved it quite early. OnePlus
Yeah.
did it early January, early February for the 12R. Like we already have OnePlus devices landing in people's hands. So this is it's a tough year. It's a tough year for sure. I don't know how the last part of the year is going to go, but right now I'm just waiting for that second shoe to drop and for us to find out that Sony has a launch event coming up very soon or something. Like this is literally that one where I feel like we don't have to wait to April and May for Sony anymore. I feel like Sony should show up in
Yeah.
April or in March. You know what I mean? Like that kind of
And
earlier conversation.
we
But
had some chat in here too between Farhan and Simon. Like right now, there's a little anxiety there too. There are people who would not be surprised. Farhan made this comment specifically. Wouldn't be surprised if Sony started vacating the North American market. Like maybe they've got a commitment with
it's a tough
Qualcomm
one.
for the next
Yeah,
several years. I'm
yeah.
not saying leaving smartphones, but if you know your phones are going to sell like hotcakes in Japan and China, why make any more stock than you need to just to sit on in warehouses in the United States? Like,
It,
sell your phones
and
where
they've
people
already
buy your
realized it. Yeah,
phones.
we've had that shift kind of started years ago. Like it's not even new. I wouldn't for them to do it now would not be a surprise. I'm not going to lie to you. It wouldn't be a surprise.
Hmm.
We know
And
China and Japan are their main market. Even Europe is a bigger market than ours, which is
and Jim Cleveland in the chat just validated my point. I'm still using my S10 Plus, and I don't see any reason to get anything else. The last Samsung I spent any money on, and it was like a couple years after it had come out because I got a great deal on Swappa, was the S10e.
Oh
And
my God, the
I'm
one.
good.
Yeah, I know that the smallest
It's got a
S10.
headphone jack and a memory card slot. It
I
is really the only Samsung phone worth owning
the
is peak
S10.
Samsung
It is,
S10.
and it was the only Samsung Unpacked that I actually was invited as a guest by Samsung, not as media. I was actually part of
Hey.
their what they call it, the Samsung members
So,
account.
and you
Yeah.
can tell that it was the best Samsung because for the S20 and beyond, we've seen sales of Galaxy S plummet.
Well,
So
I think
consumers,
their
the
biggest
market
thing is that
spoke.
they had a good recipe. They had a really good setup and recipe going on year over year. The S20 was the massive shift over from the S10 series, and I don't want to. I obviously, and I don't want to make an entire show about Samsung and so on because obviously we have other cool things we can talk about as well. But the
For
reality
sure.
is that shift started a very interesting experimentation phase for Samsung. Year over year, we see them changing. They're readjusting. They're putting things like they're trying to figure out the recipe again where they had it in the first place. They just had to build on it. And I feel like
Yeah.
although the S23, S24, S22, they stand on their own and they're good in what they do. Um, I feel like the ultras are primarily what everybody's going to be, thinking that they're getting. But the
Mm-hmm.
S20, the standard model, I feel like is a stepping stone to the plus. This year, they finally made the plus a legit competitor
A little
to,
nicer.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they finally realized like we lost features because I think in the past, if I'm not mistaken, the plus used to have the QHD resolution display. And then they
Yeah.
downgraded it to 1080, and then now they brought it back. So you could
Yeah.
see them, the brain behind the behind the curtain work kind of thing going on. They're trying to adjust and make things happen, but it's a tough year. It is
I
a
think
tough
they're
year.
trying to
Everything's
cut
moving.
costs to
Mhm.
profitability, and I
Oh
don't
no, no,
think you can sustain that. I
inflation,
think
inflation
the
alone. If you really think about it,
S21
yeah.
might have been a good play at that because they really did drop costs
Mhm.
while removing features. They had didn't the S21 have a plastic back? The S21 Plus was glass, and then the
I want to say yeah.
S21 Ultra.
Ultra was glass as
But
well. I think that's when they changed. Then when
but
the
but that's
plus
what I mean
dropped,
is
the closer
like the
to the
S21 they tried to make the cost argument. I don't think they've ever made the cost argument as well as OnePlus, but Samsung being in the position that they were, I felt like that was at least an attempt at something disruptive.
yeah.
And then since then, basically all the prices have kind of gone up while the tech really hasn't improved that much.
Well,
So,
it was okay. So I think the first couple of years they were doing it more so to get us used to higher storage and higher capacities. I think that was the well, no, because okay. So I'll say this for the longest time. 256 was always my sweet spot. I appreciated 128 back in the day when that used to be enough from one from 64. But 256 to me right now seems to like the right amount of storage, and I'm able to live with a device like that for quite some time. 128, I'm not able to. I filled that up too quickly, and there's just not enough for me to be able to like for my work style to be able to produce content, manage, and do everything from a device. 128 is just not enough. And what Samsung did the last couple of years is they did that free memory upgrade where people would buy a standard like a regular price. Let's say they raised the price a little bit, but they bumped you up. They made you get adjusted to a bigger, like you're now wearing bigger size pants, and then you're adjusting to that. And then next year when you go over to try to get the new pair
I
of
need
pants,
my bigger Samsung pants.
no, but if you manage it in that sense, you could see basically we're getting used to eating a bigger portion or needing more storage. So copy that with what's going on. Yeah, things are getting more expensive. Features are not getting they're not as dramatic of a shift. The AI
Hmm.
functions and all of the things, honestly, that I'll say the circle to search will get that wow effect for most people. But the reality is
I
most
love showing
devices,
it off on my Pixel.
absolutely no, but that's what I'm trying to say. They had that lead time for just a couple of weeks, not even a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks
I think
before Google
wasn't
dropped it.
it days? I want to say it was days
Well,
before we started seeing
I want to
some
say it was
people
in
get that Pixel
Oh no,
update.
Michelle does not count. I'm going to say this: if Michelle has the feature 2 days after, I want to say that the guy digs
Fair.
into a whole bunch of different
That's
things.
fair.
He is super early.
But yeah, I'm with you. It's like I think like, it was a great question just to kind of keep us, I felt like this week's show was going to be rambling and full of tangents,
Oh, we're still
regardless.
rambling. We're still two old dude rambling. It's not changing, man. It's good.
Yeah, again, that's kind of
It's
our
just
gig
it's turning
anyway.
into an
But
S20 series.
no,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I could not think of in my brain there is no better strategy than what Samsung ultimately did.
Mhm.
And I think we would all say like, yeah, it was kind of a terrible strategy, but like it was the best
They could
of
have
all
done
of the terrible strategies
exactly.
that could have played out.
It was the
So
only week they could have existed without having somebody else either right next to them or like it was just a week
and
before.
also
Yeah.
you can't be so precious with a smartphone launch because you're worried about a VR headset. Yeah, at some point we have to be able to trust some portion of the audience to understand
Yeah.
that like we can talk about multiple products at the same time.
Yeah.
Like when new laptops come out, we can still talk about podcasting microphones. Like it's like you've got to be able to compartmentalize and delineate like there are people who are casually interested in a lot of tech and maybe one thing is going to occupy their attention for a short period of time, but if there's a demo or a product category that is running right up against another major launch, then like you still just got to talk about it. Like
No, I
it's
absolutely.
got to be okay to split focus a little bit.
And the consumer that's looking at a smartphone is not necessarily looking at a mixed reality headset that costs $3,500 before taxes. I love how everybody references it as a $3,500 headset. Guys, with taxes, it's close to 4K. Like, let's
Yeah,
be realistic with this. Okay,
sure.
and the
And that's
fact
with 128 gig of storage.
that not only
And you
that
just said
yeah.
128 gig is not enough. So
I
really, you got to step
I will
up.
say that Apple's venture into this foray of technology, and of course, let's not try to forget that Zuckerberg tried it, and apparently Quest 3 is the better is the better headset, which is
I had
um,
to write that up as an editorial though. So I don't know. I feel like it's immaterial at this point whether or not you agree with or you disagree with his conclusion, because I feel like he
okay.
is the CEO
No.
of Meta.
I'm totally with. So there's a very fine line that I think a lot of us are not realizing, and what he was trying to. I'm not trying to say that I agree with him specifically, but between the two pieces of tech, where they are now, because remember, you're not like I'll say this kind of like an analogy in the cars. Electric cars there's more and more electric cars on the market. There's more companies putting in their
Hmm.
electric car options. The reason Tesla still has somewhat of a market share advantage isn't because their cars are great. It's because they have the ecosystem for it. It's the thing that makes the car run. It's the thing
Sure.
that makes the system go. Apple Vision Pro is not a consumer product. To treat it and to compare it and review it as a consumer-based product is just we're setting the conversation up for failure. It isn't. Zuckerberg coming in and saying that the Quest 3 is a better headset. Well, I mean, to a certain point, yes, he's right. I'm not going to say that he's not. Why is it better? It's not because it's a hardware wise. It's the ecosystem around the Quest 3 that's around,
Hmm.
the amount of game libraries, the amount of mods, the ability of connecting it to your PC. It's such a flexible piece of tech. It is
Hmm.
absolutely, for me, if I was to recommend any piece of tech, even if they asked me, I want the best of the best, I would definitely go Quest 3 over Vision Pro. Would Quest 3 be the
Yeah.
only option? No, but I'm just saying if I have to put the two together.
So
So
I wrote up an editorial kind of talking about what you're describing
yeah,
right there, where I feel like it's so much more important that someone from a company, not Apple, stood up and said, "We like the product we made." I want everybody. So we've got some people in the chat right now.
yeah,
I'm gonna put out a question, and if it takes more than like 60 seconds to get an answer, I'm gonna be pretty sure that someone just pulled up another browser tab and they're cheating. But right now, from memory, everybody in this chat, tell me what you know off the top of your head about HTC's most expensive VR headset. Go. Now, TK and I are going to talk because there's obviously a little bit of a delay between when we say and when we see things in the chat and stuff like that. But there is a complete and total vacuum around the Vive. The Vive is a premium piece of hardware. So why isn't it more a part of this conversation? And it is because of the LG effect. They are not putting the same money and marketing and efforts behind
They're not
their product.
They will
They're
be
not...
at MWC. They will be at MWC, and I can
no.
point
So,
exactly
but this is it. They show up and they make cool stuff. LG showed up and made cool stuff, but then hired like Joseph Gordon-Levitt to play drums in a subway to advertise the LG V20, and it had nothing to do with any of the features on that phone. So it's the correct move. I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg. I'm not a fan of Meta or Facebook. I really wish Oculus wasn't owned by this blob of a big tech company. But a CEO who is not in charge of Apple went out there and said, we're doing something really cool and you should pay attention to it, and kind of put tech journalists on notice. Yeah. You don't know anything about VR if you're just casually putting out there. Like, I've seen so many Apple mixed reality headset reviews that are like, well, obviously it's better than the Quest. And they can't quantify what that means. But that is just a knee-jerk statement you put in the middle of a review to stroke the egos of Apple fans. Mm-hmm. Because it's so expensive. Well, obviously it's better. But how? And to hear Mark Zuckerberg actually break things down and say, like, well, look, we're not doing stuff with this motion blur, but obviously it's kind of cool that they're using higher quality. I mean, he's actually like digging into the specifics on how all of these headsets are different.
Well, no.
And he's trying to make an argument that tech journalists are dropping the ball on. Is you're really going to give me a comparison? There are very, very few people I follow who I would really trust what they have to say about VR headsets right now. Like, I'm hoping Jeff Kanata over at DLC Pod, I think I hope he's getting a Vision Pro, because I'd really love to hear his thoughts. That dude has owned every single VR headset that's ever been put out. Like, from like Sony PlayStation VR 1 to various incarnations of Vive and Oculus. And I think right now he's mostly gaming on a Quest. That's a guy I would trust his opinion on the differences between these different products. But like, there aren't many other people, and there certainly aren't many Apple journalists that I would ever trust to give me a fair assessment of the VR landscape. They will brand fan for Apple, and that's great. Apple fans love to hear good things about Apple, but they don't know WTF they're talking about when it comes to VR. Because I've been in this space since the early like 90s arcade days. This is how desperate I've been. Oh my god!
What was the one that Nintendo put out? The
Virtual Boy.
The Virtual Boy. Oh my god! It was.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. It's horrible.
Oh, it like gives you immediate migraines. So I just want to see here in the chat. Yeah. So I asked what they knew. Barry Johnson says he knows nothing about HTCs. Yeah, they make great phones. Yeah. Terrible VR strategy, though.
Absolutely.
Septian says, not a damn thing. Golan's giving me a shrug. Simon says Hypno actually knows the name, kind of. Vive X. That's not the name, but it's close. It does stuff and is expensive. But is it expensive compared to a VR headset from a company that traffics in user data? Because HTC doesn't monetize user data like Meta does. So if you're subsidizing your hardware costs because you know you're going to get software devs on board, you're going to get those software dollars coming in, and it's tracking and scanning everything that you do in your home with those cameras, how much is that? Because when you get an Oculus dev kit, it is substantially more expensive than getting an Oculus Quest. And why? Because they can't profit off of your user data on a dev kit, and you have to pay a subscription fee every year to keep using your Oculus dev kit. Ron Guido says, I remember it as being expensive. Septien is saying HTC is still in the game. Michael Peppertech, I know that HTC Vive is one of the only headsets to work with the user wearing glasses. So the Vive XR Elite also has mechanical diopters
Oh,
built
nice.
into the headset. So depending on your prescription, you
Yeah,
probably won't need lens inserts. It'll just go zook, 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 and like adjust to your eyeballs. I also really like the Vive's fan assembly
mhm.
in a way that Apple tried to kind of copy. The cooling solution for the chips built into the headset blows air over your face. So you get way less of the old school VR like
The heat,
sweaty
the sweaty face.
eyeball,
Yeah. No,
sweaty face thing.
first gen Quest had that issue as well. The third gen got a lot better. The Vive, my last experience with the Vive, unfortunately, was at not unfortunately, but it was just so long ago, was at MWC a couple of years ago. You go in, you go up,
Hmm.
and they're right out the stairs, and I forgot, I want to say the hall 3 probably, if maybe hall 4, but like it's hard to miss. They have such a big
Yeah.
presence in that area. Um, Look, the Vive and HTC are light years ahead, and Quest Pro is also to a certain point a much more of a professional level piece of equipment. I've tried the Quest Pro, and I got a chance to see how that was with Qualcomm. I think it was a couple of years ago at Summit,
Hmm.
where I still, this is again my only sticking point to this is not a product though. The Vision Pro is not a product. It is not intended to be sold as a product. It was supposed to be sold
It's
for
a
development.
really
It's an
it's a
expensive
really
dev
sexy it's a
yeah,
sexy dev kit.
it is,
Yeah.
and it is.
It's
But that's what
exactly what it is.
when Tim made the announcement, he called it a dev kit. It's a developer. The hardware was meant for developers to be able to start building applications. So I appreciate what Zuckerberg did. Again, not necessarily agreeing with everything he said, but I agree with if there was a choice between the two, I would absolutely recommend the Quest 3 over purely from the sense of ecosystem.
Hmm.
Somebody going into a Quest 3 will enjoy the experience way more than somebody going into being a super, super, super early adopter on a Vision.
So I, I feel like this is on us
Yeah.
as techies, and I don't mean you and me specifically. I mean everyone here in this
No, no,
chat.
absolutely.
Like, if we think that there's some potential in face computing, I think that there's a lot of potential in face computing, and I'm
I
really
do.
excited that maybe we'll get back around to having good heads-up displays. But
Yeah.
this is exactly where we need to be leading conversations to say the Quest does this and the HTC does that
That. Yeah.
and Apple's headset does this. And none of them are like the end point. Like these
No,
are
no, no,
all
no.
very small steps on a journey that
On an
should be playing
evolutionary
out over the
journey.
next
Exactly.
20 years. But if we can't acknowledge, it's the same thing. It's the same like how both of us get frustrated with a lot of phone videos. It's like you're comparing this phone against this phone, but one phone is really good at doing like documents and spreadsheets and like office work and stuff like that. And the other phone is better cameras and is better at editing and rendering video. You would never offer both of those phones to the same consumer.
Exactly.
Like, if you're really listening to people and they say, like, oh, yeah, I had this issue wearing these goggles, and you're like, well, what about a headset with cooling and diopters? Wouldn't that be an improvement for your situation? Or, oh, I was really getting the screen door effect and it was giving me migraines. Well, unfortunately, you've got to spend more if you want better resolution, but there's a solution for that. There
Yeah.
is an option for that. And that's what we're not doing. And that's what I have to give Zuckerberg kudos, where again, I'm not a fan of what he's done throughout most of his career,
Mhm.
but he showed up to a conversation and he's leading a conversation where so many tech companies seem to like not want to ruffle feathers, take a back seat and let the market just sort of decide. It's the LG effect. LG left a total vacuum of perception of their brand, and that vacuum was filled by million plus subscriber YouTube influencers who used LG as the whipping boy in all of their Samsung and Apple coverage. And Zuckerberg was correct to at least try to not let that happen to the Quest in light of all the media attention that Apple can garner for their very first developer kit mixed reality headset.
That's true, and I think to a certain point, I hope people are paying attention to it. But at the end of the day, I really don't think a person that's looking at an Apple Vision Pro, and even and I'm saying looking and considering buying it, knowing the price, is not considering the Quest 3 in the same conversation. So I don't think he was really. to a certain point, again, I'm with him. I agree the fact that he needed to make the statement. It was nice to see somebody stand up at his level and say, look, our product is definitely a better product. I understand and I appreciate what they're doing. We consider some of that tech for our existing hardware, but maybe come back down the future. He was talking in general,
Well,
like about a lot of,
and the thing is, like, I could have like reached out to shake his hand and give him the firm hand grip with
yeah.
actual eye contact, because he brought up, yeah, we've been playing with some of this in like the Quest Pro. The Quest Pro did not sell well, and what was one of the main complaints? It's like $1,000 headset. Oh my gosh, TK, it's so expensive.
Yeah.
What do people know about the HTC Vive? Either nothing or that it's too expensive. And right now, like the last week, I think it's been on like some like packaged bundle. So it's not cheaper, but you get like way more stuff with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a third the price of a Vision Pro. So how expensive is too expensive? Like, for some reason, Apple is allowed to set their own market value, but everyone else has an opinion on, but that is too expensive and it should have been cheaper. And you're like, but it's better built, it's better balanced, it's got these really cool features, it's got all this new tech inside, it's got new chips, it's got this, it's got that. And it's not allowed, you're not allowed to sell $1,000 headset if you improved it. So again, it's like, he pointed that out. We've played with this technology. We took this out of the Pro for the Quest 3, and we're probably going to put it back, but that is going to increase the cost on a Quest 4.
Yeah, exactly. And and I think I would expect it to be that type of tech. But again, to the end of the conversation, a lot of our tech right now has one major downfall we haven't gone over. They're heavy. They're big. They're not intended to be kind of like the early stages of what we had with the focal binaural, or even with the Google Glass. It is that companion XR AR kind of experience that we always want. We have better solutions for AR glasses now, and we get better experiences with them. They're lighter, they're smaller, but again, they're not intended to be worn all the time. It's still that experience where you kind of go in, have fun with it, and then leave. It's a side thing, not a main thing. So where we are right now, we're still years from where we need to be. I like the experiences. I like where we are now from where we were 7 or 8 years ago. Because when Vive was first at the Android barbecue and I got a chance to play with it, I got motion sickness from it. I didn't feel it right away. It was during the time when you had to have the 4 satellites, and your whole, there was a mass amount of wires coming up. It was fun. It was absolutely fantastic. But I got motion sickness like there was nothing. The second and third time, much easier, much better. But I feel like we need to kind of wait a little bit more to find out how the tech is going to evolve. Apple's going to probably release something way different than what the Vision Pro is. This is, again, the first bulky iPad that we first saw back in the old days. And now we see iPads in much different, more sleeker, different formats, different sizes. All of that has to change. But I feel like, again, you're right. This whole judgment of Apple makes it right. It just doesn't. You have to judge the tech for what it is, not for what it's going to be. This is a dev kit. This is meant for people, the developers, to make apps for it. It is not meant for consumers to start, or reviewers to compare it and say that this is a great investment. You should buy this if you want XR or AR experiences.
Right.
It's not the right solution right now.
I mean, just the idea that I want to wrap on that on that point though is, I want to see any other company come out and say, we like the product we made, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to try and share these experiences with consumers, and not just let a lopsided tech press that depends on trend analytics algorithms to monetize decide for us the value of our product.
Exactly.
And I don't like Zuckerberg, but he nailed it. He stepped up to a conversation, and now people are more aware of this simply through the controversy of him discussing a competitor's product. And I can't get anyone to look at an HTC. Like, they are not, they're showing up, but they're not defining their product for
It's the
consumers. They're
exact same
letting
approach in their mobile
other people.
devices. It's the same thing. Every once in a
Yeah.
while, you hear about a new HTC, and you're like, "What? They're still into making phones?" Like it's that type of conversation. It's like it's a weird approach. But no, I'm with you. I'm with
But
you.
you've got to do more than just show up to a tech conference or show up to a trade show. You have to be a presence in people's lives
Yeah.
and join the conversation in a meaningful fashion. And sitting on a couch recording the video from a Quest 3 was exactly the right thing for Zuckerberg to do. And in light of the Vision Pro not having a killer app yet because it's a dev kit,
Well,
I
and
think we're
it
going to
runs iPad
see.
OS apps for the most part. But yeah, no.
But because of that, I think we're actually going to see a tangible increase in Quest sales over the next couple months. Like I actually think that the combination of Vision Pro existing and Zuckerberg drawing such a stark comparison against Vision Pro and looking at the price tags isn't going to hurt either, is I think it's going to help move that one topic. I really believe that Steam and Valve were looking at their partnership, their strategic partnership with Quest, knowing Vision Pro is on the horizon, and also knowing that no one really wants to do business with Apple if they can help it. If you don't have to do business with Apple and give them a 30% cut of everything that you do that they don't help you out with at all, you don't do business with Apple if you can help it. But if you have 20 million quests out in the ecosystem, and now you have much better support for Steam and Steam VR, and that's peanut butter jelly time, and both companies are benefiting from that.
Yep.
You have real killer apps. You have real killer services to draw people in and get them interested in more than just the occasional dabbling with a headset that's going to collect dust after that first week.
It is, and I think because of the fact that it is, I think we kind of covered it to a point. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think where we have it at this point is we got to wait and see. Quest definitely will get a little bit of a bump, and well, I think Vision Pro, yeah, it. No, I'm not going to lie. I tried thinking of some type of way of justification of this. They're functionally a way to make something like you can't cover the piece. You can't cover it from the sense of accessories. You can't cover it from the sense of longevity or even support because nobody's going to spend that much money. The reality, it is overpriced. It is purely development, and it is just there. That's it. I think that's where we need to leave it. But I feel like a lot of us love to be able to translate, kind of like in the days with Nexus. We loved getting Nexus devices because it was cheap development hardware that was crazy powerful, easy to mod. But it wasn't designed for consumers. And then, we're all like, oh my God, pixels are so expensive.
And this needs to be the part of the conversation where we approach it with some intellectual honesty.
Yeah.
Making a face computer is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
No one's nailed it yet.
No.
There is no shining example of this is the direction we're going to go. We're all still figuring out the basics. We're still trying to get the basics right.
Yeah.
And of course, 7 years after HoloLens, 11 years after Google Glass, we're playing now with other AI hooks and gimmicks and monocles and X-Reels and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. No one's found the solution yet.
They're still experimenting.
Yeah. We're stumbling all over the place. And as soon as we see a few good ideas, they're only available to a very select number of consumers because we still don't know enough about how to change things up so that they fit people's faces better. We have over a century of experience in making audio systems and headphones and earbuds and all this stuff. And there is no one size fits all perfect earbud. That just doesn't exist. No. We're at the beginning of making, record players and lacquer to translate wiggles in plastic into acoustic information. That's how far back we are in the world of face computing. We could be in for our next 100-year journey here. Like, not in our lifetimes. This might still be kind of terrible when I shuffle off my mortal coil and just be like, oh, I thought this was going to be really cool in Star Trek, but I just got to wear these like bulky glasses and it's uncomfortable. Like,
We
that's
didn't get
how
Joey
this could still
LaForge's
play out.
approach to AR VR. We're still light years, many galaxies away. But so yeah, I think we've kind of nailed that subject to a certain as best as we can in the amount of time we have. But you and I kind of both talked about a lot of stuff going on the last couple of weeks or so about NAS and upgrading NAS and getting access to building up and trying to improve our experiences. And obviously, more since you and I've been talking behind the scenes and stuff like that. But I finally got my it is such a long it took so long to upgrade my NAS. I've hit my limit on my RAID 5. I think it was like a total of 10 terabytes of storage, and I was about 8.1, 8.4. So it was starting to hit that red. The system was starting to give me all the warnings. Okay, you're getting close to critical here. This is the library is not going to be that reliable if you keep putting more and more. So on that matter, I decided to take a dive, and I picked up a few 20 terabyte drives from Western Digital, basically Red drives, but the Red Pros. And the only reason I decided to go with that over the Seagate, because I know you recommended the Seagate very well, was because Western Digital had like such a cool deal for two. If you buy two of them, you get to have each drive for $299. So it was basically a 20 terabyte Western Digital Pro Red for $300 a drive. And I could not resist. I'm not going to lie. I could not resist that opportunity. So I picked up 4 of them. And then I as soon as I started getting them, I started rebuilding. So I started drive swapping, and oh my God, does that take forever? Like the first drive was 9.5 hours, maybe 10. The second drive was 13 to 14 hours. The fourth drive, the second through the fourth took forever.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the best.
and that wasn't even it. By the time I was done with the last drive and I was done, I was like, okay, great. I look at my NAS and I forgot that I still have to expand the volume. And it still said 8 terabytes with 8.1
Yep.
terabytes by 10. And I'm like, wait, but I can see the drive capacities. It's because the volume hasn't expanded. It's essentially using bigger drives, but it's still assuming it's the same volume.
Well, because all of that data has been striped across these
Exactly.
drives, and
Yeah, yeah.
it has created a volume of data. And to change the volume of data, you have to restripe
Oh my God.
across all of those drives.
That took close to
So
24
long.
hours, if not
Yep.
more. And I'm not going to lie to you, that last part of it got me scared a little bit, because as it was finishing the drive expansion, or the volume expansion, it made it look like it was empty
Yeah.
for a little bit, and I was starting to panic. I was like, no, and then of course it came back. And now with the new storage capacity. So the lesson behind that is obviously there's a couple of things. First, it was my connectivity to it. I was having a hard time connecting to it because I was still using the GUI interface that comes with Qnap,
Oh, yeah.
which is cool and all, but like you should just pretty much connect to it directly over the network and map the drive to it. There's no reason to use the web browser or use Chrome as a portal into it. Once I took that out and I got the library updated and everything was in, then I had to figure out what do I need to do with the 4 terabyte drives that I had in the old configuration, right? I had 4 terabyte drives sitting there. So I decided to pick up a slave, like a dumb NAS for the lack of a better term. So essentially it's a NAS that you would run if you were connecting directly to a PC and let the PC manage it. So there's PC software in there, you run on there. But it was also a perfect combo because it connects over to USB 3.1 to the Qnap NAS that I have. And now it's actually, I have the main partition, the main volume, which is I think it was like 54 terabytes. And then I have the subset of it, that old NAS configuration that I had, which was about 10. So getting more storage basically, and having them connected to a better Ethernet so I have better connection to my PC. So now it feels like I'm just transferring over from one drive to the other. I have the higher speed, the higher performance, the throughput, the higher L2 cache on that. I'll say this. It is. I'm happy that it's done.
But
Backing
it
up
took
my
it took me
took a while.
because like mine, I have a 3 bay,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's like now I just tell people like it's great if it gets done faster.
yeah.
But if you're swapping drives and then really getting to maximize the storage, you're not just setting up new partitions because you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
You could
You can
keep
create a new
that
volume.
8 terabyte volume and then have like another 30 or 40 terabyte volume separate. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. And I've told a couple people now because my parents have 4 terabyte NAS, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, when you expand that, kind of want to count on like a half a day, like 12 hours per drive.
Yeah.
And again, this is highly dependent on the amount of data, but roughly ballpark in this. And then another whole day just for rebuilding if you want to make that one big bucket that then you can kind of portion out in different ways. So like with 3 bay NAS, I was about 4 days. It was
Yeah.
about 4 days to like really manage the entire transition through all of those. At some point, I'm probably going to go to a more like corporate grade, like get like an 8 bay or something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not excited about when
The
I'll
potential.
eventually
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
do drive replacements and knowing is like, oh, this
You
is
know,
going to take me 10 business days
in a
to
weird way,
accomplish.
having the old NAS configuration now in the TR04004, it's another 4 bay drive, kind of like a a slave to the main
Yeah.
NAS. Makes it so that it's easier to transfer. And I can technically take that out, disconnect it from the main NAS, and connect it directly to my PC and just run it
Yeah.
because it's already in RAID 5. I don't have to do anything to it. It's already in configuration. I formatted it. I renamed it. I got it ready. Basically, it's as good as it's going to get with the configuration, meaning that I can actually move it around easier. I don't because it doesn't have network connectivity. It doesn't have the built-in processing power. That's the
Yeah.
main thing I meant when I say the dumb NAS. It just doesn't have all the main
Sure.
bells and whistles. It has
It's just
literally
an
one.
enclosure.
It has one USB-C
It's
port on the back. That's it.
yeah, it's not really a NAS, it's an enclosure. It's a
No, no.
multi-bay
It's a
enclosure.
it's a RAID. Yeah, it's a multi-bay enclosure with RAID capabilities that you can run from your PC. It needs a PC to do
Right.
all the bells and whistles. But the big, like I said, the big difference for me was the throughput, that the improvement over the old Western Digital Reds, the regular Red Pluses, not the Red Pros, because that wasn't a consistent 7200 RPM throughput. It's a variable throughput, so you get faster, slower depending on what you're doing. The pros are much faster, and you're right, they're a lot louder.
They're a lot louder.
Yeah, in
So
some of my
I
recent
like
videos, you may be able to hear them.
I mean like even for me because like I keep my NAS here on the bookshelf. I'm thinking of moving it out to the hallway where we keep our router and just
Some,
like there's like a constant heartbeat
yeah,
as the drives
something
are.
is writing, something is going on. But what I like about it right now, because I've reconfigured it as well on my devices, and now I have my camera set up, my camera backup automatic. So I've done that
Yeah,
function that I like, where now anytime I plug my phone and it's connected to Wi-Fi when I'm charging it, whatever
it's
that hour,
great.
it backs up all my
Oh,
stuff.
I need to set up Marie's because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have her
Oh,
on
I know.
that
I need to
Pixel
set
8
it.
now.
Yeah, yeah. That
I
was
need to
my only
get
thing,
her.
and it's the way to do it. You don't have to worry about, God forbid, something happened to your phone, and you don't have to worry about cloud storage. Like, done.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
done, and move on. Yeah.
I I don't know what a plan through Google for 50 terabytes of cloud storage
Well,
would
I
cost
mean,
me.
with Gemini coming out with Google One, function options and all of that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that the shift that Google has, where they're trying to do everything on the cloud to a certain point. I think at some point they don't even need to have computing power on the phone if everything's connected. But the reality at the end of the day is, yeah, that's an extra expense. That's $100 plus a year for storage on
Yeah,
your data that if you don't have a good connection, you can't even get access to it that quickly.
no,
This,
no,
if I'm not at the office, I'm in the car. No, no, if I'm at the office, my phone's connected to Wi-Fi, and I decide to plug it in, it's backing up to my NAS at home. It's
yeah,
accessible from anywhere as long as my internet at home is working. I'm good. And if
yep,
my internet is down, I still have the data because it's technically in my home. It's not sitting on some server somewhere. So I
hmm,
think to a certain point, at some point, I may want to do a download, like a data dump from my drive or from my Google Photos,
yeah.
and back it down to my NAS, because I know that there's more there than it is on the NAS. I'll be honest with that. I'll be very, very frank with that. Way more content on my photos,
I
but I
did
think you
that
can.
a while back and then reorganized all of our family photos on the NAS,
Yeah.
and it's really nice. I mean, like I stopped paying. The only cloud storage we still pay for is OneDrive, but that's because it's bundled with Office,
Hmm.
and both
Same.
Marie and I need Office for work.
Hmm.
So we have OneDrive. I think my main account has like 300 gig, and it's almost all photos and videos of Lex that we share with other family members. Farhan has a comment here. I'm still interested to do a NOS, but I'm still concerned about power outage. Once you start playing with more of this networked equipment, like I have a big battery backup for my workstation. It's like you've got to upgrade an entire chain
Hmm.
of office equipment,
Yeah.
and I would recommend putting all of that on some type of battery backup. So
Yeah.
I have an uninterruptible power supply. I've also played with those big crate batteries. We have one of those under Marie's desk. We have the Anchor 757 we're
Yeah.
using
I
as
have
a
that one.
UPS
I
under
used
her
that. I
desk.
used that a week ago during our massive power
Yep.
outage, first one and the second one.
And
Actually,
it's
I'm
like
worried about
you're
the next one too, because we may end up getting hit again.
well, we had a crazy power outage last night, middle of the night.
Oh crap.
Like I came into the office and like
Hmm.
my lights have a physical switch and then a wireless controller.
Hmm.
So when the power gets cut,
They
they
turn on.
they get they turn on
Yeah.
because the power switch is on, even though the last command from the wireless adapter was to turn them off. And like everything, like we had to reset all of our clocks and everything like that too. Cedric Owens, come over to the dark side of Unraid as 60 terabytes with parity. I 60 TB is pretty sweet. I don't know. Have you
I bought
played?
80 terabytes of storage in that capacity, but I will say having a drive fail and having the ability of just replacing it with another drive, because I've had a drive fail on me within the 4 terabyte ones that I
Mm-hmm.
had. That is the
Yeah.
scariest thing, especially because again, data, you have data there, and I'm not just talking files and stuff like that. I'm talking like memories and documents, depending what you guys store on your thing. And in God forbids, in case of whatever, in a fire or whatever like that, if there was something to grab, you grab that with you. That's it.
Right.
It's an
No,
easy,
but what
small
he's
place
saying
to take.
is
Yeah,
Unraid. He's
yeah,
not saying don't use a
he's parity.
striped data. No, Unraid is an operating system that you can run
Okay. I'm sorry.
on
I'm not familiar with
hardware.
that one. Yeah, yeah. I thought it was the
Yeah.
opposite of running
So like
a.
so like I think Unraid is something that you would want to use, like especially if you were building. I'm lazy.
Mhm.
I actually have some systems I've been thinking like, hey, it would be kind of a fun project. I still have some of my older drives, like even back, like I've got those 4 and 6 terabyte drives from my terrible Western Digital enclosure. And I've been thinking like, maybe I want to try and build an Unraid solution and just see what it's like. But ultimately, it's like I really do use my Qnap for work, and it worked so well after those Western Digitals were so terrible. And I plug these drives into my Qnap and I fire it up, and then I'm just working, and I haven't had any serious downtime with my Qnaps. I've kind of like, okay, there's a cool hobbyist thing I'd love to try, but I just don't have the time
No,
to
no,
really
because
put one
for me
together.
on my QNAP, I'm running it not only just as a file server, but also as the Plex server. So it's like it
Yeah.
runs my media off of it. Like I host some of my music libraries that I have in there. And again, it's the ability of being able to just download that wherever I am, to save it on whatever device. And if I don't want it,
Yeah.
delete it off the device, it's still on the NAS. It's
Mm-hmm.
there's so much more flexible option. It's such a hard thing to get into because of the cost. I know the original time when I first set up my first NAS, it was, I want to say, still close to that $1,200, because the NAS itself was 350, I think almost $400 from
Mm-hmm.
B&H at the time.
This sounds about right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I was running the 4 terabytes, which were about $150 to $200 back then. Now they're like 84 if you can find them. But yeah, no, like right now, I think what I'm doing is I'm looking for a good deal on a spare 20 terabyte from Western Digital. So I'm going to be on the lookout for that for a while, because I need to have an extra
Yeah.
spare sitting there. I mean, What I am I am considering doing though is, so I have a few of my old spinning disk drives that are sitting in just enclosures, right? Like 4 bays
Mhm.
here, 4 bays there. I'm thinking of what I should do is get all of that content, transfer that over to the 4 bay 8 terabyte drive configuration, make that the solution for that, and then get rid
Yeah.
of all of the old spinning ones, because I'm pretty sure at some point they're just going to just die anyways.
Yeah, and
And
especially if you're not using them regularly.
no, and
So,
yeah, and
yeah.
but I also feel like it's taking too much space because there's like pieces of hardware everywhere. So getting that consolidation done maybe over this holiday weekend would be a good project for me.
Yeah.
My only thing right now though is I am somewhat in a mini, not panic mode, but more like getting ready for MWC, because I don't know if I said this to many of you guys, but so I will be attending MWC,
Mhm.
leaving next Thursday, to MWC to be try to be there a couple of days ahead to try to take care of some things ahead. As you know, shows like that always have pre-event things for media and so on. Um, so I'm in crunch time right now, trying to kind of like shoot videos, get content done, or do half work on certain things, half work on other things that we can't talk about yet right now, and things that we hopefully be able
Mhm.
to share within the next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's nice to be able to say, hey, my content is sitting on the NAS. If and I'm not gonna lie, this is what happened to me truly as a story. I went to last year. I went to Hong Kong, and I was in the middle of shooting a video for one of the brands we were working with. I compressed the videos and I sent it over to our friend Jermaine. He was helping me out edit the video at the time, and I forgot the drive with the original photos at home. Now, had
Yeah.
that been on the NAS, like I'm supposed to be doing it anyways, I would have been able
You
to
could
download that
have.
over the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have taken forever, but I would
Or
still get it.
no, but even better is like you wouldn't have had to have downloaded it. You could have just sent him a link
Oh,
and let
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
him
no,
deal
exactly.
with downloading.
Yeah, no,
It never would have even
it
hit
was
you.
it was during the time where he and I were working at a mechanics where I sent him the compressed version. So it was a 1080p version of my footage. Luckily though, that it was a 1080, not a 720, because it was still okay for me to post the 1080.
Like you
You know what
could
I
have
mean?
posted directly from it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think that would have been my favorite solution. Now, right now, that's literally every time I do it. Every time I download the content from my cameras and everything like that, I'm sending it straight to the NAS. It just runs off the
Hmm.
NAS. It's
Same.
fast enough to be able to edit from it. So
I'm
it's
working
nice.
directly off of the
Yeah,
NAS. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, no,
So just a couple. Simon says, Hypno, I have a Western Digital My Cloud Home, a bloody
mhm.
awful purchase that is worse than the version before it. I might look into a NAS, but the expense worries me. And it's a big step, but I also feel like a lot of people start looking at, I need to get a big drive to back things up, or I need to find like
And I
a,
have
a,
yeah.
a 2 bay solution. Like my uncle got a Western Digital 2 bay that if he tried to transfer more than a gigabyte, and he had, it was 2 10 terabyte drives in a little 2 bay vertical enclosure.
Okay.
And if he tried to transfer more than a gigabyte of data at a time, it would overheat and shut off because the cooling was completely inadequate in their enclosure. He ended up just giving it to me, and I ripped the drives out of it, and that's how I did like 2 of the 3 drives when I did my 10 terabyte upgrades across my older NAS. I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, start looking at spending a little bit more to get better solutions to back up their computers and to try and save their data and protect their data. And unfortunately, you kind of there's like a gulf in the middle. There's a lot of cheap stuff, and it's not very good, but it's cheap, so you're not that upset. Then there's a middle zone of stuff that's really not very good, but it's starting to get more expensive. And then you just got to take that next step into a solution that is noticeably more expensive, but really does the job that you were promised it could
Yeah.
do. And it's just getting over that middle zone is, I think, the biggest challenge for so many consumers, because it gets more complicated, it
Mhm.
gets more expensive, there's more to manage,
Well,
but then
cooling
you
is a
get
big factor into this, and in managing the type of drives that you're also running with. They have to be rated to be in the NAS system, not at a. You can't
well,
just rip. It's always a
yeah,
mixed
because
bag. You don't know what you're going to get out of those
it's not
enclosures.
just the difficulty of like, I got this box and now I'm going to use it and it's hard. It's like you've got to learn, like,
Mhm.
what is it that I'm trying to accomplish and what are my storage needs really look like. It's like you've actually got to do all that homework. But then once you do, I feel you get so much better capability that it's ultimately worth making that step, but it is a very intimidating step
Yeah.
to get through.
It
So
absolutely.
we should probably wrap kind
Oh,
of talking
I
this
was about to
week.
say, yeah. No, we still have the rugged
No.
PCs.
I don't mean to like push stop immediately. What I was saying is getting into our last little bit of our conversation this week. You've been playing with a crazy folding device
Yes.
that I'm
Which
sure you have a lot of thoughts on.
I do have a lot of thoughts on. I have a lot of I have a lot of admiration, a lot of appreciation as to what Honor's been able to do with the V2, especially the RSR. It's an interesting name. So the RSR V2 Porsche design. It's a collaboration with Honor and Porsche to more of an elevated experience as to the V2 that's already been out. So this is a device that Honor released. We saw in a Chinese version of it, and I think finally it's coming to the global market. And sorry, the biggest thing that I liked about it is the hinge mechanism, the thinness of the device, the functionalities that we get there, the desktop experience that we get in there, pen support on the inside, external display. Gaming on it is actually surprisingly very nice. The transition from inside to external display is so smooth and so seamless. Like in the middle of
Nice.
playing a game, in the middle of playing Call of Duty, Genshin Impact, PUBG, whatever, you can flip it into a standard phone and it becomes like a regular gaming. You want to flip it over to a bigger display, open it up. The game continues. It's literally that, like that transition effect was really, really nice. It's not perfect. There's some things that I feel like probably need a few more software optimizations done in there. Specifically, I think with Magic UI 7.2, we still don't have swipe down to open notifications. I feel like that's something that Honor, that would make me install a Nova Prime on it just to be able to do swipe down to open the notification panel. But I'm hoping that something up. I mean, I've voiced my opinion with that one. Hopefully, we'll see if there's any input into that. But with that, I think as a piece of tech for what you're able to do, check out the video. I put out some content there as far as gaming, and it's focused on photography on it. I did also kind of focus on obviously unboxing it, showcasing the pen functionality that we in there. But the main focus were cameras are pretty decent for what we get from for foldables. I still think the Open is much better, like as far as a camera foldable experience right now for 2023, even into 24. The Open is really, the camera system is hard to beat. But
It's pretty good.
this actually, okay, so remember when we talked about the fact that the Open felt like a phone, like a regular slab phone,
Yeah.
when it's not closed, when it's not open. This feels more
Even
like
more.
even more like, I don't know. I didn't think they could slice it thinner, but they did. Like the phone is substantially, and I showed it to you when we saw each other last week for lunch. You saw how thin that thing is. It is crazy. Like seriously, how Honor was able to do it. But
Yeah, it felt like the very first time I picked up the Surface Duo 1, and I couldn't believe
yeah,
it was that thin, and it's even thinner than the Surface Duo 1.
and it's
So,
light. It doesn't have like a lot of weight to it, but I will say there's the standard version, and then there's obviously the Porsche design. The Porsche design includes everything that you need from Honor, like a leather case, like a leather back case, the pen, 2 chargers in the box. Like God help us, right? We're struggling with no chargers in the box, but the V2 Porsche design gets 2
has regional chargers in the
regional.
box.
Like it's basically like you've elevated yourself to a certain status where like, where am I going today? I will pick that charger. You know what I mean? Like, this is my trip. Like for Barcelona, that's the charger I'm taking. No pun intended. Actually, that is going to be the charger I'm taking because that's the European charger. No, but like,
Heck yeah.
it surprised me. I'll be very honest. I wasn't expecting it. When it showed up, I was like, wow, like really wow, like wow. And it's still very, very nice and very surprising. So yeah, no, check out the video and it's on. I posted early this week. I think it was like the Monday or Tuesday, and it really is a surprising piece of tech. Absolutely gorgeous design. I feel like some software optimizations can help the experience, especially with. I think Magic UI is great, but it still hasn't felt like it had that major uplift from when we used to see it back when it used to be under EMUI. So I feel like it still feels like a slightly upgraded version of EMUI, but I want it to feel more Honor specific as opposed to a derivative of what we used to get before. But I like it. It's a good rugged piece of tech to a certain point. I'm trying to build this. I'm trying to set up the rugged conversation. So I figured.
We don't need to spend too much time. Like we knew this was going to be a rambling podcast, and we dedicated a
We
bunch to
we
Samsung
ramble?
at the beginning of
No.
this.
Yeah, that was the
But
thought at the beginning of the conversation.
I am working with the folks at GTAC, and I'm coming to the end of my time with this just gorgeous, absolutely stunning example of like rugged military grade laptop and
I'm
portable
honestly glad that you're
computing.
able to experience some of the
It's
other
so
ones, other brands that, because we both worked with
Panasonic,
Panasonic
the
with the
Tough
Toughbook
series,
series,
yeah.
the Toughbook series, and I will say that I've seen many more Toughbooks now. But I feel like having other players in the market to be able to actually have devices like this is really nice. It is
So
absolutely look like a tank. It's built like a tank.
yeah, and just it contributes to a part of this conversation that I worry we get fixated on a single trend. We kind of go like that's the only viable model to
Mhm.
deliver a product. And then these things become like crazy boutique niche
Oh, B2B,
solutions,
quite a
but
bit. Yeah, sometimes even B2B to a certain point.
no, but I mean like there is no consumer sales for GTAC, just like there is no consumer
I'm serious
sales
for
for a
Toughbooks.
Panasonic Toughbook. Like
Yeah.
you can't just go to the website and buy one. Like that doesn't exist. But there are so many good ideas here that I wish we could adopt some strategy for. Like think about going lower cost Chromebook, but built with slightly better modular parts and a slightly beefier, chunkier frame. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of parents and teachers would appreciate that kind of design. I forget. I want to say it's here in Southern California. There was just like another news report out. I'm sorry, this is super foggy. I didn't really prep this for the show or anything, but like school districts were talking about like, well, post pandemic, we're not going to be dedicating money to these types of like Chromebook programs anymore.
Yes, I think that
And
was the
so,
LAUSD. It was in the
so,
news because they bought so much
but
post
there was
pandemic.
something,
Mhm.
yeah, and so like, okay, part of the reason why though is because like now that students have been going back into school, these devices have actually been facing more abuse and wear and tear, and they're getting broken more frequently and the repair costs are adding up. So they don't want to do a program of take your laptop home and to school.
Mhm.
It only made sense to take your laptop home and then do online school for the
Exactly.
costs involved. And you're like, if we had solutions, like I miss the Galaxy Active. The Galaxy
The
Active
active
was
series,
billed
yeah.
as this like hardcore construction worker premium phone, but like I sold so many of those things to parents. Like you don't, it's still got a good camera. It's a really powerful phone. It's got a great screen. You don't have to worry about buying extra cases or accessories for it. It just is the more durable device.
Well, it's almost like the
And a bunch of
V20 back
parents
in the day
loved that.
when where that
Hell yeah.
the Mil-Spec A10G back the material that they were using. Exactly.
Oh yeah. But like
Or the B10 even.
there are few more of these ideas, like simply the ability to like hot swap a battery. It's got dual battery chambers, so you can pull one battery and replace it while it's
And keep
still
going.
running off of the other
Exactly.
battery. I mean, it's like there is a market for some of this idea, for some of these ideas. There is a small group of consumers that are completely overlooked. If they're more nomadic, like
Mhm.
people that are like, RV or they love camping or they just are outdoorsy or adventure-y kind of people. And like, yeah, you buy a super thin tablet or a super thin laptop and then it's on you to get the cases and protectors and bumpers and bags and screens and like it's on you to make it the product that you really needed it to be,
Yeah.
when you could have just bought the thing that you really needed, except for the fact that we don't sell those to consumers. So anyway, this is like it's as far out there of a system as you can go for a smaller it's a 12-inch laptop screen. It's like 11.7-inch
Okay.
laptop screen. So, this looks like it's totally a point-to-point competitor against like a Surface Laptop Go.
If
But
the Go was supposed to be able to defend you from a stray bullet coming
yeah,
straight at you, but yeah, no, I'm with
for
you.
sure. I just like I have acclimated to this so quickly. I I feel so much more confident leaving the house with this. I've like written scripts just out at the park, and now I never want to put a premium consumer laptop down on a concrete picnic table, like ever again.
Mhm.
Like it just the second you shift it around, if you don't have something under it, or if you got like little bits of dirt or grit, it's
You'll
like
start getting
I've seen
scrapes and
people
micro. Yeah, I know.
I've seen people out of the park with their MacBooks, and you're like, why would you do that to a MacBook? But you know, when I have big chunky RoboCop lunchbox for a laptop, I don't care. There's so much clearance and so much space and so much room, and it's big and it's chunky, and it's just it actually looks cooler now that it has a couple teeny little micro scratches on the casing. Like it's meant
It's
to
rugged.
have
It's
it.
supposed to have. It's
It's
the story behind
supposed
the
to
scratches. Yeah,
you
no,
like
I'm with you.
rub some dirt on it. It's supposed to do
Hey
that.
man, the last
So
stuff book I got to check out from Panasonic, I gave it a water shower. I took it in the backyard, put it on the ground, and turned on the hose because they said I could do it, and I said I
yeah.
will. So yes, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. When is that? So are you working on a review, an editorial, or how is that?
Yeah, we're I'm going to be doing a video that is kind of in keeping with a consumer conversation, but we're looking at what are the good ideas,
Mhm.
because there are really good ideas here, and when you have the space, you can do some other tech things with this. When you have the bigger frame, there are some other benefits that you can take advantage of. So I'm hoping I've just contacted the company back, and they're like, we're wrapping up our little loaner here and everything, but I'm hoping it'll be out the end of February. So
Mhm.
maybe not next week, but the week following, after we kind of chat out any potential revisions on the
Just in time
video.
for
But
MWC.
I like the timing is getting real precious. Like when do we kind
I would
of
probably
when do we
say
go
I
on
would
this?
say if you're able to push it to the week after, just so that the conversations kind of shift a little bit. But I think most of the big not big bang, but like most of the big announcements for MWC typically happen on day one, if not the day before.
Yeah.
So you're pretty safe if you're going in the latter part of the week. But I'm just again, me being
But
just
see, that's also that also be good for me, because then I'd be able to hold on to it longer.
ah,
So I
you
might need to delay the
you might have to
video.
parlay that a little bit. Yeah, I would not say no to a conversation like that. But no, I'm excited to see that. And I saw that you dropped the I just got the notification that you dropped the Puro
Yeah.
video on the Patreon side. So yeah, it's very nice. It's always nice
So
to see some.
that should be going public either tomorrow or the day after. Just another follow up conversation, just protecting kids' hearings and protecting kids' hearing and giving them better audio capabilities.
I
That's kind of how I'm going to be wrapping up my week. What do you got coming up? Because you've got to
so
clear some of this
I
content
so
before you go and
I
get
am
more stuff.
I am absolutely clearing content as much as I can. I have one video in review right now. I have tomorrow, or maybe at the latest Saturday morning, I'll be putting out a video on a couple of brand new pair of speakers from Soundcore, the X600 and the
Nice.
X500. Again, they showed up. I wasn't even expecting them, but I'm like happy that I saw them. It's this is an issue when things like I'm getting notification of packages coming, but they're like, so a couple of really good speakers. So that's going to be the next video there. Hopefully the video that's in for review gets approved. That goes in on Monday probably. And I have a mini PC, a Geekom PC. I think the Mini Air 2. I keep saying the wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but the Mini Air 2 video that should be coming out next week, probably latter part. As I'm traveling, I'll probably post that video up. And
Nice.
a couple of surprises by the end of next week. I'll say that.
Woo woo.
A couple of
I
surprises for
I
videos.
don't know what you could possibly be talking about, good sir.
I
It's a
yeah, unfortunately,
complete
I
mystery.
can't share anything, but I hope that you and I can definitely have a big chat
I
about that the
just
week after.
can't point my camera down, or
Down,
else you'd see the things that we can't talk
talk
about
about.
that don't exist.
No, nope,
They
nope, nope, nope,
totally don't.
no,
There's nothing to
absolutely.
see here, folks.
But yeah,
So
no, it's gonna be
stay tuned.
it's gonna be busy. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be a lot of work. I'm stressing out a little bit. My watch says I'm stressing out, but not a lot. But yeah. Um, with that being said, I hope you guys obviously, we actually are somewhat around on time. This was
Yeah,
supposed to be a
let's wrap
chill
this up.
video. Yeah. It's absolutely a chill week. We are wrapping up and gearing up to a lot more content. Next week, we're going to figure out how to do the podcast with me
You'll figure it out.
being so inconsistent in location. But make sure to check, and catch Juan on Monday morning's podcast, of course, the SGGQA on this YouTube channel as well, obviously on Twitch and the Patreons and all of that. And then we'll be back with another episode next week. Hopefully at some point we'll figure out, we'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
With some more exciting news. I'm hoping we'll be able to talk a little bit more about what's coming up by then. But definitely the week after, as I'm going to be coming back on the 28th, and then we're going to have a lot of content, a lot of things to talk about.
A lot.
I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great weekend, a great rest of the weekend, holiday weekend if you're celebrating it. And of course, the audio version of the podcast will be up hopefully in the next day or so. But hit that like and subscribe. It helps the channel and lets us know you like us, because we want to know if you guys like us. So take care, everybody.